Welcome. This is the Enlightenment Podcast, part of the Authors on Air Global Radio Network. And I'm your host, Laurie Schoenfeld. Thank you for all of those who are joining us live and for those who are listening in. I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest today, Kaya Wolf, who is the author of Serenity, the Blood Moon Prince. This is her new debut novel, and I'm super excited to talk about Serenity and where the idea for this beautiful story came from. Welcome, Kaya. So excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am delighted and so excited to be here.
Absolutely. Your book is absolutely stunning. Your writing has this very beautiful, descriptive, lyrical feel to it, which just really entranced me into the world of your characters and the setting of Serenity. Can you tell us a little bit about what Serenity is all about?
Serenity follows the life of the main character, Kain, who is a surviving prisoner of war. And he's been through a lot. And he just wants to be left alone and definitely wants to stay away from magic. He has to run from his own people and he hides on the island of Serenity. And he ends up making friends. And despite his instinct, he ends up falling in love and learning how to live again. When the past rises up again, he has to make the choice whether to face his fear, his past, or let everybody die.
I loved the whole story concept of being an avid reader myself, but also I really appreciated, Kaya, how you brought in the realism and the relatability of having panic attacks, PTSD, and bringing in that trauma that you incorporated within Kain's personality and also his character. But you also showed us this beautiful perspective, not only from what he's feeling, but what the other characters are seeing around him, trying to understand, but not quite understanding because they're not in that same space. Did you, when you were writing the characters, is there somebody that you related to or resonated with that brought in that part of Kain with having trauma and panic attacks?
The relatability is actually from myself. I am a warrior of mental illness. I have anxiety, I have depression, and I have my own battles that I face. And when the message became clear that mental illness was a big part of this book and a big message within it, um, I didn't hesitate to dive in and really try to show what it's like to be in those instances because it can be very scary. And for those who don't have to battle that or experience that, they don't understand.
Mhm. Did you, when you first were thinking about writing this book, what came in for you first? Was it the theme or the message of the story, the characters, or the setting?
The characters came first. The setting evolved throughout the writing. It used to be a sci-fi, so I had planets, and then it devolved into just a world with islands and stuff like that. But the characters have been with me for over 20 years. Some of these characters, and within the last 4 years, they evolved into their final form, and the story took place. And it was within those last 4 years that the inner message of mental illness and all that came into play.
I always love to talk about this concept of creativity and art and blending it into talking about those beautiful concepts that need to be shared, that we are going through on a consistent basis with mental health. When you were writing Serenity, was it helping you to walk through with your characters some of the things that your characters were bringing in? Was it kind of a journey of you figuring out and finding yourself as well, right alongside them?
I definitely learned a lot about myself in the course of writing this book. I was in a coaching program that helped a lot with that and helped me really decipher my message to the world and how I can do that through my writing. And it was in a really dark moment personally that it all came together. The light clicked on and I realized what needed to be done.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to show the cover for those who are watching in and those who are listening. I'm going to kind of describe the cover for you. It is absolutely stunning as we have a full blood moon. We have the wolf standing just right by the blood moon and this just beautiful, serene forest galaxy type starry night feel. It is absolutely gorgeous. Did you have a part in creating the cover, or did you give some ideas of what you would like to see on the cover? How did that unfold?
With the direction that I went with my publishing, I had a lot of say in my cover. Um, they asked what was I was looking for, so I gave them covers that I really liked, and kind of told them that I'm like I really want a blood moon, a wolf would be nice, and just kind of gave them my thoughts and my ideas, and they gave me 2 samples, and this was one of them, and I'm like nothing needs to be changed. That's perfect. So it turned out just the way I imagined it.
Mm-hmm. It's very vibrant with the colors and just the whole feel of the
Mhm.
cover.
There is a certain feel to it. I love it.
It resonates with your story a lot too, which is beautiful. What is something as you were going through and writing Serenity, Kaya, that was a big message that you put in there about mental health and a certain awareness that you found yourself having come up often as you were writing it?
I'm not entirely sure.
I asked this question because as the reader, one of the things that kept coming in for me, as I'm also a survivor with PTSD and childhood trauma, and so I really resonated with the relatability of Kain and the different struggles that he was going through. But what I loved about it too was that there was that piece of him which knew what was going on, but somehow wanted so much to find a way to get out of it. And he had both sides of that relatability, which is so true to if you do go through mental illness with PTSD and panic attacks. It's so real within your body, yet there's parts of your brain that's screaming, get me out of here. Like, I want to get out of the
Yeah.
space that I'm in. And you showcased that so beautifully of how your mind can be your own worst critic,
Mm-hmm.
um, more than anyone else. Your mind can be the thing that traps you.
Yeah, your mind can be your biggest enemy, especially if you let it go out of control. Especially when you start going down that downward spiral to very dark place, and
Mm.
where all you see is your pain, and you only see one way out sometimes. And that's you just can't get over it. You have to learn how to kind of master your mind and your thoughts and stop it before it starts that downward spiral. And that's something, so how I ugh, sorry, it's something that I've kind of learned to do, is when my brain starts to go down that downward spiral, I can recognize it and say, whoa, stop, let's do something else. Let's do something to distract me from those thoughts, those feelings.
Mhm.
But it doesn't always work, as people know with mental illness. When you get into that anxiety, when that panic attack hits, you're in survival mode. And it's a real fight.
Mm-hmm.
And what's important is to make sure that you're safe and that you come out of that safe.
What are some things that have helped you in your moments to be able to feel safe, but also to find one tangible thing to focus on?
I'm a gamer, so when I struggle hardcore, I tend to focus in on a video game and I can get lost in it. Because it's something that I'm doing with my hands, it's something that I'm doing with my mind, and it's distracting me on multiple levels. Music has played a big part in my life too, especially if I find those songs that really resonate with how I feel. Sometimes it helps me work through those emotions and those feelings. Listening to music that really identifies with that, and then I can start going to happier notes and music, and sometimes just going to sleep is a big benefit to me, and it resets me sometimes just going to sleep.
Yes, absolutely. Rest is, whether it's your mind, body, your heart, or all three, definitely can be the reprieve. This beautiful book, can you tell us about the setting of Serenity, where you came up with that? As you had mentioned, it had planets at the beginning and then it kind of shifted.
It was a sci-fi fantasy at one point, yes, and I decided that the sci-fi part of it was just a little too much, and that all shifted when I realized I was in the middle of a rewrite. I got halfway through the book, and the characters are like, we want to go this way," and I'm like, "But I have plans to go this way," and they're like, "Nope, this way," and I'm like, "Okay." So the second half of the book was a complete rewrite with while I was taking out all the science fiction elements in there.
Hmm.
But Serenity, um, part of it is very tranquil. It's you're on a planet that has Serenity is the last true green area. Everywhere else has been more um, industrialized. There's still some green, but not like Serenity. You don't have the lush green forests and the green grass everywhere. And I kind of described that at the first of the book where Kain sees it for the first time. And he's just like, wow, there's a lot of green.
I loved how you described it. And that was one of the things that really soaked me in is like the whole way that you write the setting and the details and descriptions within where they are, but also within how they're feeling really grounded me into feeling like I'm sitting right in Serenity. And I was right next to these characters and they were just talking to me in my front room, which was such a fun and beautiful space for me to soak and sit in that. So good job, Kaya. So you have multiple characters within your story. The two I'm going to talk about right now is Kain and Ashley.
Oh, yes.
And I love, love, love how you separated their personalities so much. From Kain wants to be completely left alone, which we understand a little bit more as the book goes in why, that he's just trying to figure out how to survive. Where Ashley is just, she really wants to hear about everyone and about the world and talk and express. And like, that's her kind of love language. And so you have this very interesting barrier that you have between both of them wanting to connect, but being so far from each other of knowing how to possibly do that because their worlds and their personalities are so very different. Did you have a fun time playing their characters because they are very different and kind of finding scenarios where they went opposite directions but tried to connect? Like, what did that look like when you were writing?
Oh, I always had Kain and Ashley have been with me for the longest time. They're the longest characters that I have in my mind, and uh, Ashley was always outgoing. She wants to be kind to each other, everybody, and be friends with everybody, and just help people out. That's just her nature. But she has her own demons, as you see in the book, and they kind of bump heads because they're so different. But they figure out how to get over that in the end. But it was really fun to try to give every character their own personality and make sure that their every character that I really hone in on had their own personality and their own attitude, and um, that they would just be stand apart from each other. That's what I'm trying to say. So it was really fun, and makes it more entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you a people watcher, or do you do like character personalities, sketches, or anything like that that kind of helps you be able to bring even more characterism to each character?
I definitely like to people watch. Um, but I do, um, I have gone into detail about each character, especially Kain and Ashley. I really broke them down and apart and really, like, I sat an evening apiece and really dove into who they were, what they liked, even if it wasn't going to make it into the book. I wanted to know so I could, so if something did arise, I already have it. I already know.
Hmm. Are you more of a plotter or a pantser, kind of a hybrid when you're writing novels and stories, would you say?
I am definitely a plotter, but I do pants from sometimes. I have become a pantser sometime, but then I always go back and replot it and figure it out and then keep to my plot again. But I have been known to pants, and I did that in this book.
Did you, when you were going back and doing edits, did you notice that plotting kind of helped you be a little more grounded into the story, or did it actually go the opposite direction? And did you feel like you were plotting so much maybe that you had to take some of those pieces out because there was too much detail? What did
I I f- I like to know everything. I know their backstories. I know their futures. I know their favorite kind of candy. Like, not that extensive, but you know what I mean. Like, I know everything. I have to know everything. And um, going through edits, it was hard because I wanted all this information to be in here sometimes, and I'm like, no, this is something that you don't need to know. Let's take it out. Um, and I just went in thinking, okay, what's the most important things? And I wasn't crunched for number of words or anything, so I didn't have that restriction of I had to stay within so many words. So that was helpful as well for me.
Mhm. I'm always curious about that question with writing multiple POV, if you are more of a plotter or a pantser, and how you really dive into doing what you did, which was beautiful, having multiple characters have their own chapters, but also in giving them that depth there for their own perspective, but then adding their perspective of what they see in other characters as well, in a very different way as also. So I'm going to go into the inner child question segment. Are you ready, Kaya?
Yes.
Okay. Number one, what do you personally find magical about a full moon?
It draws me in. I absolutely love the moon, especially when it's full. It just seems like it seems like a big hug where it's just wanting to wrap around me and just squeeze me. I just love to stare at it, especially when it's full. And it just, I don't know, it is magical.
Mm-hmm. What creature would you want to turn into on a full moon? If you could pick any creature.
Ooh. Either a wolf or a unicorn.
Ooh.
Maybe a dragon. I don't know. Mythical or real?
Okay, so we're going to take it then. Why a wolf?
I think they're beautiful. They're so graceful. They're just, I love the dynamics that they have in packs and um, how they look out for each other and work with each other. Um, and I already said this, but they're beautiful. I love them.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree on those characteristics. What about a unicorn?
I've always been in love with unicorns, of course. Um, but they're magical. They're um, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, I can't think of the word. They're majestic. There's the word. They're majestic and, of course, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And a dragon.
Power, power, and um, just the sheer force of nature that they can be.
Mm-hmm. What do you love most, Kaya, about creating?
It's a way to express myself and to convey things that I can't say verbally very well. Um, Sometimes I can say how I feel that way. Um, and it's really just a part of me. It's in my blood. I have to create, I have to do something.
I'm very curious about the video games and what are some of your favorites that you like to play often?
I'm a Halo fan. I am a Master Chief nerd. I love everything Master Chief. Um, I love Assassin's Creed. My favorite is the Ezio series. And I've recently got lost in Animal Crossing. But I've played WoW before. I've played Final Fantasy before. Um, so there's a good variety there for things that I enjoy.
You said some epic gamings for the whole like feel and the setting, but the characters as well. With Master Chief, my boy would be so proud to hear this interview right now and high five you. So I'm going to high five you for him. Yes.
Yeah.
What is the weirdest food combo that you've liked and tried or you've just tried?
Um, hmm. I'm trying to think of something that I still eat. Probably the weirdest combo that I currently would eat is ramen and meatballs. My husband thinks it's so weird, but when I need protein and I want ramen, you got to put some meat in there, and meatballs are just quick and easy. As a kid, I would make Chex cereal and peanut butter sandwiches. Go figure that one. I don't eat it now.
Actually, we just went out for half a second. We're back. Okay. The meatballs and the ramen sound actually really amazing. Like I would go make that right now. And I love food that's super quick. Like that's
Yeah.
my go-to food. I'm like, just
Uh-huh.
warm it up, put it together, 5 minutes or less, we're good. And the crunch with the Chex mix, I can see that with the peanut butter.
I did that as a kid. I
Mm.
also had banana sandwiches with butter, banana, and bread. as a kid.
I've
And
never done
my
so.
mom would make that for me. So it's an old hack, I think. Old food.
Is it peanut butter and bananas and bread or just butter?
Butter, banana, and bread.
I've never had that one
I
either.
had that as a kid.
Did you like it?
I did.
Okay. So anyone who's listening in that wants to try a meatball and ramen hors d'oeuvre, and we have Chex Mix with peanut butter, or Kai's given us a lot of beautiful options. A butter sandwich with bananas, and take a picture and let us know how it goes. We want to hear about it. What is some advice that you can give to our listeners today about living a creative and joyful life?
Creative and joyful life. For me, creativity is an outlet. And one thing that you have to do, especially if you're putting your work out into the world, is you need to kind of harness that fear and kind of get ready for all the reviews, even the negative ones, even the 1 stars. And because you're going to get it, people like to give their opinions. And when you're creative and artistic, it's very easy to get fixated, especially when you have mental illness. It's easy to get fixated on the negative, and it makes you want to quit. And my advice is to never give up, never stop, and to remember that all the naysayers, all of the negative people, there's people that are out there to just give negative reviews. It's so sad. But that's just their opinion. It's just one person's opinion. And read it, take it in, let it go. Don't dwell on it. And that would be my 2 pieces of advice is get over that fear and don't let negative thoughts stop you. Keep going.
And where can the listeners find you if they have any questions for you about mental health, as well as where to find your book?
My book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million. All the major retailers. You can find it on all the major retailers, both in ebook form and in paperback. They can get a hold of me on my social media, which is Kyle Wolf Author. That's my handles for everything. You can also find me at kylewolf.com.
Perfect. And we will put all those links down in the comments below so it's easy access to Kaya. Thank you so much, Kaya, for writing this beautiful book, but also opening that awareness for mental health. And there needs to be continual messages about that. Thank you for your bravery and for being a radiant and magical unicorn and sharing your strong voice. We really need more of this within the world. So much love to you. Congratulations. I wish you the best with continual success with this book and many more. And for all of those who are listening in, thank you so much for being here. And as you go about the rest of your week, remember to look for the things that are working for you. Find one thing that brings you joy, that seems playful and colorful, and make sure to take care of you, your mind, your body, and your heart, as that's the most important thing before you do anything else. Have a beautiful rest of your week. And thank you so much for being here with us, Kai. It's been such a pleasure to have you joining me today.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you.